Welcome everyone to Things Around 8. Dear friends, in this video we will discuss a new Iranian threat, with sources indicating that Tehran is preparing to attack Israel before the US elections. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any news. To understand where we are at, let's rewind to early October 2024, when Iran launched an unprecedented attack on Israel. On October 1st, Iran fired about 200 ballistic missiles at Israel, a historic attack that marked the largest offensive of its kind against Israeli territory. This attack caused panic among the population, with civilians fleeing for shelter, and although it caused limited damage to residential areas and some military bases, it was a clear demonstration of Iran's offensive capabilities and a test of Israel's defense systems. In response, Israel launched Operation Days of Repentance, a calculated and meticulously planned offensive. During this operation, around 100 Israeli fighter jets attacked multiple strategic targets in Iran, including ballistic missile factories, drone launch centers, and air defense systems. The aim was, of course, to destabilize Iran's defense capabilities by weakening both its military infrastructure and its weapons production, particularly ballistic missiles, which pose a direct threat to Israel. The strikes took place in key areas such as Tehran, Karaj, Isfahan, and Jirez, destroying a number of important facilities. Iran, of course, tried to downplay the impact of these strikes. Iranian officials publicly claimed that missile production was continuing at full steam and downplayed the damage in order to maintain an image of stability. However, satellite imagery contradicts this official narrative, showing that the damage was severe. In particular, satellite imagery of the Shahroud Space Center, controlled by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, showed that a central structure was destroyed. This center, in addition to space launches, serves as a base for the production of long-range missiles. The extent of the damage leaves Iran vulnerable to additional attacks, at least until its air defenses are repaired. In official rhetoric, Iran has adopted an aggressive posture in response to the attacks, with senior military officials, including Revolutionary Guards Commander Hossein Salami, emphasizing that the response will be unpredictable and bitter for Israel. Commander Salami has called the Israeli strikes a miscalculation, a provocation that Iran will not ignore. In several statements, Commander Salami has reiterated Iran's capacity to carry out devastating retaliation, promising that the consequences for Israel will be unimaginable. Such rhetoric is intended both to intimidate and to boost domestic morale amid an Iranian public that demands answers in the wake of Israel's actions. The United States plays a critical role in this escalation scenario, especially given the upcoming presidential election. Since the beginning of the tensions, Washington has supported Israel, but has also called on Iran to avoid further escalation. In a press conference, White House spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre said that the United States will support Israel if Iran chooses to retaliate, but stressed that Iran must avoid responses that would aggravate the situation. This message was reiterated by Matthew Miller, a State Department spokesman, who stressed that the Israeli strikes were an appropriate response to an unprecedented attack by Iran, and therefore should be the end of the story. In addition to diplomatic support, the United States has taken preventive measures, such as the installation of an advanced missile defense system in Israel. This measure aims not only to ensure the defense of Israeli territory, but also to send a message to Iran that the United States is prepared to support Israel militarily if tensions escalate. According to insiders, President Biden finds himself in a dilemma, as an escalation of the conflict in the Middle East could directly affect domestic politics and even the outcome of the elections. But Israel's security remains a non-negotiable priority for the current administration. The proximity of the US elections adds a layer of complexity to Iran's strategic decisions. Analysts expect that Tehran may opt for a calculated retaliation before November 5th, seeking to influence the political landscape in the United States. Some observers suggest that an Iranian strike could be aimed at testing the future US president's stance or even weakening Biden's position by creating a diplomatic crisis during an election period. This political calculation is part of the geopolitical chess game in which Iran tries to maintain its strong posture without falling into the trap of an all-out war with Israel and the United States. The final decision on Iranian retaliation ultimately depends on dictator and Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Despite internal pressure and expectations of a strong response, Khamenei remains hesitant to order an all-out strike. His hesitation could be interpreted as a strategy of containment, seeking to avoid a full-scale war that could further destabilize Iran. However, in recent statements, he has warned that Israel has miscalculated, suggesting that some form of limited retaliation is inevitable to preserve the Iranian regime's image of strength among its own people. Khamenei and other leaders, such as Commander Salami of the Revolutionary Guards, are also considering alternative forms of retaliation. These include cyber attacks, attacks through allied groups in Lebanon and Syria, and even covert actions. Each option has different strategic implications, both for regional security and for Israel's ability to respond effectively and quickly. The risk of a disproportionate Israeli response, should Iran actually attack, is high, and this would heighten tension in the region. If Iran decides to retaliate directly, we could be in for a series of military confrontations with global implications. Israel has already warned that it will respond to any attack with full force. According to the Chief of Staff of the Israeli Armed Forces, Herzi Halev, any new Iranian attack will result in a more forceful and devastating response. Israeli retaliation could include attacks on strategic points previously spared during the last offensive, aiming to further weaken Iran's defense capabilities and weapons production. On the other hand, an indirect Iranian response, through actions by its regional allies, could avoid a direct escalation, but would keep tensions high in the region. Groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza still have the resources and infrastructure to attack Israel in a relatively indirect manner, which could maintain Iran's position as a power without triggering an open war. The current moment is critical, and the coming days will be decisive in understanding whether this escalation between Iran and Israel will evolve into an open conflict, or whether it will be contained. Iran's decision to retaliate before the American elections, the United States' firm support for Israel, and the mutual threats put this situation at an unprecedented level of tension. Any Iranian retaliation, whether direct or indirect, could trigger a cycle of violence that would drag the region into a full-scale conflict. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bells so you don't miss any news.